Annyeonghaseyo. Korean is not one of my languages, so I need one of our good translators to tell me how to pronounce that exactly, but it is a Korean greeting. Today, we're here to talk about the top 5 green and red flags to look for in a translator. I'm Wendy Pease of Rapport International, where we connect you to anyone, anywhere in the world by providing high quality translations in over 200 languages. Join us every Thursday at 11:30 a.m. East Coast time, where I go live talking to you about translation trends, questions, cultural fun facts, funny word plays, and global marketing. And don't forget to ask any questions. I'll answer them at the end. And if you're here, tell me who you are and where you're calling in from. I love to know that people are actually out there listening to me. So, picking a translator can be scary. I talk to a lot of people that are afraid of another language or another culture because they can't check the quality. And so today I want to talk about how you can build in things into your process to trust that you're getting a high quality translation. Okay, so let's start with the green flags. What are the green flags or the things that you want to do to find a high quality translation provider? First off, your translator should know the language pair that they're working in very well. So if you're a Korean and English translator, you have to be fully bilingual and able to write in those languages at near native proficiency. And you only go into the target language as your native language. So let me explain those terms. The source language is what the document or the content is written in originally. The target language is what you want it to go into. So if you have an English document that you want to go into Korean, you'd want to find a translator that is fully English speaking, fully Korean speaking, and they're native Korean speaker because they're taking it into the target language of Korean. So a good translator will only go into their native language. And there's some people that really grew up in a two-language household or country. And so they may be near native. So those few can get away with it. But most of the time you're looking to go into the translator's native language. They have to have knowledge about the subject matter. So, for example, if you have marketing materials that need written, you wouldn't take that to your engineer, just as you wouldn't take your technical documentation to a marketing writer. People have different styles, different skill sets, and different knowledge and different writing abilities. So, not only would you want the person with the right writing style, but if you have an electrical patent, that is going to be very different than somebody who's working on a nanotechnology patent. So you want to make sure that they're knowledgeable in the subject and then completely knowledgeable in the style of writing that you need. Good translators will only accept assignments that they know that they can complete, that they're going to give high quality and that they can do it on time. A good translator will say, I just don't have time in my schedule right now. So that is somebody you might want to go back to. You also want to keep consistency of voice. So if you do start with one translator and they provide good quality, stay with them because two good writers could work fantastic for you, but they're going to have slightly different styles. And so you want that style to stay consistent. A good translator is going to be communicative with you. So if questions come up, we've had run-on sentences that we've been trying to translate and we don't know the exact meaning. So we'll go back to the original author and say, what are you trying to convey here? Add some edits to it, and then it's easier to translate. There's another video that I did on how to write good English, and so it's easier for the translator. So you can watch that. We've also had like dates that were wrong, or we've had incomplete sentences. So we've got stuff that have double meanings in them. So when translators come across something like this, they want to be able to access you to ask these questions so they can deliver the highest quality. A good translator is also the person who understands the culture where the translation is going to be used. So we had a client come to us and they said, we're getting horrible feedback on this translation. And so we always start with, well, where is it going to be used? And they said it was going to be used in France. And when we took it to the French translator from France, she said, oh, this is done with a Haitian Creole French. No wonder the people that are reading it think it's poor quality. It's just a different orientation of what people expect to see in their written. And then they'll culturally adapt it. So if you're saying something that doesn't make sense in a culture, or it could be adapted to be said a different way that would make more sense to the audience, a good translator is going to make sure to culturally adapt it or make recommendations for that. And then, of course, they're honest with their cost structure. I've seen too many agencies that quote a low cost per word, but then they add in project management fees and quality assurance fees and for other fees. So by the time you boil it all down, you're not really comparing apples to apples if you're price comparison. So those are the green flags that you're looking for in a translator. Now, what are those red flags that you should go, I'm not sure I want to work with this person? First off, if they're using machine translation, you want to stay away from them. Their machine translation is great for quick, dirty, and free. But when you start getting into anything that needs quality translation, a good translator won't be using it. Occasionally, clients, and this used to be a while ago before people knew of the quality, but they'd try to do a translation in machine translation and then send it to us for editing. And the professional translators all say it's easier for me to start from scratch than try to edit this. You'll also want to stay away from people who will sell you machine translation with post editing. It might be good for something you're not going to get translated. It's not going to affect your top line, your bottom line, or your liability, but it's really not high quality where you're trying to connect with your audience. Look for somebody who's responsive. At our agency, we have a 100% on-time delivery rate. Our clients need to know when they're getting their projects back. I never thought on-time delivery rate would be a differentiator, but working with a marketing firm, they said that in the industry it is. So if you're working with a translator or an agency, make sure that you check into the delivery rate. So you're not saying, when am I going to get it? When am I going to get it? When am I going to get it? It's also, if somebody's willing to go too low or they don't know how to price, they may not understand what goes into a translation. I'll see this with people that are bilingual. Maybe they're teachers and they're really good at teaching, but they may not have that translation experience. And so they don't know how to charge, or they charge too little. This can kind of be a red flag because it tells you that they're not a professional. They're not doing it for their job. Now, one thing that we don't do as an agency is we don't teach, because that's a different skill set and we don't have that specialty. So we've never tapped into that. So translators who do written, interpreters who do spoken, and teachers who teach all have different skill sets. So you want to pay attention to that. If a translator says that they can work across 3, 4 different languages, that's a red flag to me, because I want to know what that language pair is. The only time that we've used somebody that could speak multiple languages is when a client wanted a sign that had welcome in different languages translated and laid out. We used one person to do a few different languages because welcome was pretty common word that wasn't going to screw up. You want translators that understand. So it's a red flag if they don't do research. The translators that we work, the professional translators, pride themselves on the research that they do. They quote dictionaries at me. They'll go out to stores if it's a consumer product, and they'll look in the marketplace to see how other products are positioned and how they're talked about things. They do extensive research. They'll play around with different words. If you're getting your search terms translated, you want them to give you some different options so you can run the statistics on what are the frequency of people searching on those terms. So you can really pick the ones that you want to narrow in on. And then they'll ask you questions. So make sure a translator that you pick really does do research and prides themselves on it. And then the final red flag that I have is that they're not open to feedback. Now, what makes an agency so good with finding your translators is that translators take a lot of pride in the work that they do, and they have a hard time hearing feedback on it. It can be like a lot of writers. But when it's given right, a good translator is going to be open to feedback. And clients will oftentimes come back and say, well, this isn't a good translation. And I've heard that so many times, I don't even blink at it anymore, because I'll say, okay, let's talk about it. What's going on? And I have to understand who did the review and what kind of feedback they get. Sometimes it can be a community reviewer group where they're trying to make all the translation very colloquial, and then it's not proper grammar. Other times it will be a single word that's an industry specific word that they want changed throughout. Sometimes they just want to use a different word, like dinner and supper are interchangeable in the United States. And so that's just a stylistic change. But no matter what it is, we want the reviewers to bring back any feedback they have. We take it to the translator, and then we hear the feedback, and we either accept it and say it's just stylistic, or we take it back to the client and saying, well, we can change this, but it's going to change the meaning, or it's going to be incorrect, or these are all the issues with it. Now, we like to do that. If you have an internal reviewer, we don't charge any more for that, because we carry a liability insurance policy, and we want to know that what you're using is what we provided to you. If you make changes afterwards and you go out and you run into problems with that, then we haven't put our final stamp of approval on it. And if you don't agree with what we're saying, or there's a reason why you want to stick with what your reviewer said, at least you have an intellectual reason for why you're doing that. So these are your green flags and your red flags. And I know I told you I was going to do 5. I didn't really count them out. So you've got the information that is key. If you found this helpful, please like it. If you think somebody else in your organization or in your community would benefit from this information, please share with them. I'm Wendy Pease, and I thank you for tuning in. Ciao.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, or you can keep watching. And don't miss out on new posts by subscribing to our channel. And if you want to talk to Rapport International about all your translation and interpretation needs, or about growing your business into new markets, use the link below for a free 30-minute consultation.